Everyone keeps telling me this game's opening is fire. Let's see about that. Oh.
Your journey the power of change will help you grow and set you free. Only you can save tomorrow. Out in the darkness of the night, your courage will shine just like a light. Through eternity and put an end to all the sorrow. Through your adventures, you'll find the answers. Just gotta be strong and fight with resolve, 'cause nobody's gonna hold you down. Monster boy, fighting for a future made of love and joy. All the good and evil trying to destroy. Only you can save. If you have faith in your brain, you will see that not everything is what it seems to be. There's a beast within you, go and set it free. Listen to its voice. You're the morphin hero, monster boy.
That was amazing. There's no way it could get any better. I was wrong! Jen is just enjoying another bright day in Monsterland when a menacing rumble booms in the distance. Suddenly, his uncle, drunk on royal nectar, flies past on a barrel, wreaking havoc and transforming everything in his wake with his magic wand. Jen's younger brother, now an adorable little dragon thanks to their uncle, warns Jen that everyone in the kingdom has been transformed. Like a good protagonist, Jen sets off to stop his uncle and lift the curse he's cast upon the kingdom. Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom took me by surprise with how good it was. It didn't leave the greatest first impression with its Saturday morning cartoon plot and uninspired first hours, but its astonishing art design and animation kept me hooked long enough for the game to sink its claws in. And once that happened, I couldn't put it down and had a blast all the way till the credits rolled. The game competently takes a lot of tried and true Metroidvania tropes and mechanics and stuffs them into a single game to create something great. But is Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom great enough to hang with the likes of Hollow Knight, Blasphemous, Ender Lilies, and Symphony of the Night? Let's find out. As always, I start with gameplay because gameplay's king in my book. Cursed Kingdom divides itself into two categories, combat and puzzle platforming. And if anyone watched my top 10 Metroidvanias video, then you know I'm not a huge fan of puzzle platforming, especially when they sneak it into my Metroidvanias. I will say the puzzles didn't bug me too much in this game for two reasons. One, the form swapping mechanic was fun to use, and two, this game was made for a child audience, so none of the puzzles were brain busters. Obviously, adults will enjoy this game too, I'm proof. And just because something is made for children doesn't inherently give it less value. I only bring it up so you can set proper expectations. The game does have tougher optional puzzles that even adults might have some trouble with. This one, for example. I have absolutely no idea how I solved this. Hit me up in the comments if you're smarter than me and can help me out. I'd love to not be confused for once in my life. Overall, the puzzles were clever and got progressively more difficult at a comfortable pace that kept the experience engaging throughout. Combat, on the other hand, took a minute to come into its own. The first few hours of a game are crucial to its success. I have an unusually high tolerance for bad games, but most people don't and will drop a game if they don't dig it out the gate. Cursed Kingdom is by no means a bad game, but I fear its slow start might turn some people off. I imagine its slower start won't be a problem for children, but as an adult, I had to push myself to get into this game. I gave Cursed Kingdom a lot of grace simply because its music and intro animation took me back to the days of the Sega Saturn, reminding me of games like Guardian Heroes, Astal, and Burning Rangers. Their animated intros blew me away as a kid, and watching Cursed Kingdom's intro brought back all those wonderful memories. What can I say? Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. So, what do I mean when I say slow start? Basically, it's narrative and combat. The plot's childish and predictable, but given the target audience, that's to be expected. But the combat was painful in the beginning. Like Dragon's Trap, the game's core gimmick is transforming into different animals, each with unique skills and properties for combat and puzzle solving. Unlike Dragon's Trap, Jin can switch forms on the fly from the get-go. Unfortunately, he can only unlock the other forms as he progresses in the story, and his first form is just the worst. Jin initially gets transformed into a pig that has the worst basic attack in any video game ever. I swear, the reach on his punch is somehow shorter than his snout. It looks ridiculous and feels terrible. You eventually get ranged magic to compensate for this travesty they call your basic attack, but magic's limited and can only be refilled via enemy drops and at shops. I hate this archaic mechanic. What makes things worse is that this system discourages you from using magic in combat because magic's also used for puzzle solving, like throwing fireballs to light torches or to hit out-of-reach switches. Limiting magic refills to enemy drops added an element of randomness I didn't like, thus making me be conservative with my magic and forcing me to use my awful basic attack. Granted, if you were at a puzzle you needed to solve to progress, they'd place an enemy nearby who always dropped the magic you needed, thus also doubling as a hint, but I still hated relying on enemy drops. I'd have much preferred an MP regen system. I get this drop system harkens back to the franchise's older games, but it can die out now. I'd really appreciate it, thanks. And things only slightly get better with your second transformation, the snake. Its basic attack is somehow shorter than the pig's, but it at least comes with an infinite amount of venom it can fire at a short distance. The game's combat really doesn't get tolerable until you unlock the Frogman. This is the point the game turned for the better. Not only does the frog have decent range for his attacks, but he can also equip weapons and armor. I'll dive deeper into why that's so important in a moment. The Frogman adds some much needed combat capabilities to your repertoire, and this in turn allows boss fights to finally get interesting. Up till you get the frog form, boss fights were purely puzzle based. They stay puzzle based throughout the rest of the game, but now twitchier combat mechanics get thrown into the mix, and that I liked. Rounding out the gameplay section, let's finish off with abilities. All good Metroidvanias ability gate their world, and Cursed Kingdom does this mainly with its animal forms. The pig uses magic to activate things, the snake can crawl on moss-covered walls, the frog does lots of things with his tongue, God I wish I worded that better, the lion breaks stuff by dashing, and the dragon flies. The other means of ability upgrading comes with equipment. There are boots that let you do all kinds of cool things, like walking on water and double jumping. Typically, I find abilities locked behind equipment to be cool, but it can get kind of annoying in this game because not all forms wear armor, like the pig. So, if I'm being chased by something and need to swap to the pig in order to activate a magical switch, I'll lose whatever move my equipment granted, and being down a double jump while trying to escape something often led to catastrophe. This actually added some interesting strategy to the game, but there were times swapping boots for specific abilities was cumbersome. Unlike transforming, you can't change equipment on the fly and had to do it in the pause menu. Again, not a huge issue, just bothersome. I think an easy fix would have been an equipment loadout system that could be swapped just like the animal forms. Because there's no leveling system or skill trees, the bulk of character improvement comes with what equipment you're wearing. Aside from adding traversal options, each piece of equipment comes with different attack, defense, and speed stats, as well as passives like poison immunity and fire damage reduction. Each piece can be improved with gems found along your journey, and upgrading and equipping an entire set gives you even more bonuses. For instance, a complete and fully upgraded ice set adds a bonus that negates all fire damage, which in turn can completely trivialize a certain boss encounter. Collecting and upgrading sets adds tons of combat advantages, so you can see how this aspect of the game got addicting. The only thing that kinda sucked about it is that there were complete armor sets that had amazing bonuses but lacked traversal options. For example, a complete Crimson set gives you HP regen, but its boots didn't grant double jump. And like any red-blooded Metroidvania enthusiast, I'd rather give up my right arm than give up my double jump. Most weapons and armor can be purchased at shops, but some pieces have to be found through exploration. Exploring Cursed Kingdom's world was tons of fun, and I always looked forward to backtracking with each new form I obtained. The map's a decent size, not too big to be overwhelming, and not too small so the devs couldn't hide anything. And there's a lot to find while you're out and about. Heart containers to increase your HP, turnips to increase magic usage, equipment, gems to upgrade equipment. There's also music sheets to find, but the big ticket item here is the legendary armor. There are 6 articles of legendary armor to find, and each article is split into 5 pieces, making 30 pieces to collect in all. This is the stuff Metroidvanias are made of. To be tantalized by the game's best equipment throughout your journey is the definition of dangling the carrot, and was an excellent barometer for measuring your exploration prowess. I scoured every nook and cranny because I had to have that legendary armor ASAP. Every piece found became a shot of dopamine that pushed me to keep playing. Needless to say, exploration was highly engaging. The biomes were interesting and always offered something new, highlights being the platforming-focused volcano and the puzzle-focused haunted manor. Both were superbly designed, but I felt the haunted manor was overlong. The idea of possessing objects and reflecting light was cool at first, but it just kept going and going. I was over it pretty quickly and was relieved after finally completing it. Concerning exploration, the final point I want to credit Cursed Kingdom on is its backtracking. Balancing backtracking in a Metroidvania is tough, but I think Cursed Kingdom did a great job, probably better than most. Every biome has a fast travel point close to points of interest, and you eventually get a weapon that lets you teleport whenever you want. There are limitations to this weapon that I didn't quite understand, but mostly I was able to use it to teleport without any hiccups. As far as atmosphere goes,
I mean, just get a look at that.
Cursed Kingdom is offensively gorgeous. Its character and enemy designs are delightful. Jin and all his transformations, though somewhat generic looking, look great, especially the Lion-O-inspired lion transformation, and the animations are charming as all heck. My teenage daughter watched me play this game and swooned at every transformation's running animation. I'd imagine any child playing this game would instantly fall in love. It feels like a cartoon come to life with how expressive and well animated everything is. And the music? Man, Cursed Kingdom's music knocks it out the park. Every track's catchy and upbeat and adds a lot to the animation's bounciness. The OST captures video game funness and rocks it loud to keep your journey cheery and lighthearted. Just watch this and tell me the track isn't a perfect complement for the on-screen action. You can't tell me it isn't perfect, because it is. This is exactly the music you'd play if an anthropomorphic pig frolicked in a field, and you can't convince me otherwise. So, I reiterate, as far as the atmosphere goes,
You gotta look at it this way, okay? You just gotta look at it. That's all you can do anymore.
the devs did an outstanding job creating a cartoony aesthetic with their flawless marriage of sound, music, design, and animation. The presentation on offer here is exceptionally high quality. There's something timeless about high quality 2D art and animation, and I bet we'll look back at Cursed Kingdom in a decade and find it's aged gracefully like a fine wine. I don't want to spend too much time on the game's narrative for the plain and simple fact that there's not a lot to be said. It's a very basic hero's quest written at a child's level. Of course, this isn't a dig. In fact, this is a compliment. Cursed Kingdom knows its audience and plays perfectly toward it. Again, I only bring this up so you can temper your expectations. Don't expect Soulsvania levels of lore and environmental storytelling here. Although, there's this one brilliant part where they show what a forest would actually look like if its inhabitants used fire to defend themselves, and it legit got a chuckle out of me. There's a quote-unquote true ending if you complete the game with 100% completion, but it's really just a post-credit scene. No new biomes, no hidden MacGuffins to unlock a new boss phase, no bikini shots, no upside-down monster world, no Thanos teases. Basically, if you're going to 100% this game, do it either because you're having fun or because you're a slave to your OCD. As if hardcore Metroidvania gamers could tell the difference between the two at this point. Cursed Kingdom does a lot of other miscellaneous things to round out its Metroidvania package in a very satisfying way. Returning to the legendary armor, you actually need the legendary sword to complete the game. This was such a cool move because it directly rewards thorough exploration and impresses upon players that exploration is in fact important. And if you haven't gotten the 5 sword pieces, the game will provide you their locations if you want, either by a map in the final dungeon or by using the Loot Master, an NPC that exchanges rare currency for providing chest locations on your map. I love when Metroidvanias provide hints or a system to help you 100% the game. I also liked the part where you're sent on a fetch quest to find the hero items. This worked because the entire map had been opened at this point, and you're tasked with retracing familiar grounds to find places you haven't visited yet. Anytime a Metroidvania recontextualizes a completed map is always a win if backtracking is done right. And as I've already pointed out, Cursed Kingdom nails backtracking balance. What else would I critique about this game that I haven't already? Not much. There's a dual plane mechanic that's underutilized where you bounce between the foreground and the background. You use this mechanic maybe 4 times in the entire adventure, and the game's unapologetically linear. I prefer more open Metroidvanias, but considering the game's target audience, a little more guidance than usual was probably the best move. And I think that's it. Oh wait, there's also this bullshit surprise spider gag they like to do. It was funny at first, then it got obnoxious, then they did it so much that it swung back around and got funny again. Never mind, I withdraw my complaint. Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom is a beautiful Metroidvania aimed at a younger crowd, but that doesn't mean adults won't enjoy it too. It was tough going at first, but eventually I fell victim to its incredible atmosphere and grew addicted to its masterful use of Metroidvania mechanics and tropes. Unfortunately, the ending was a bit of a letdown. It was a 30-second animated clip with zero dialogue. Ultimately, it didn't sour my overall experience because it showed what it needed to show. It was just, after the nearly 14 hours I put into the game, a short clip felt kind of anticlimactic. Despite that, would I recommend this game? Unless you haven't been paying attention, I think it's pretty obvious I'd recommend Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. To Metroidvania vets, to newcomers, to all gamers and their mamas. Cursed Kingdom's such a wonderful experience, I think any gamer will enjoy it, regardless of age or genre preference. But how does it stack up to the greats? Very well, I'd say. Though Cursed Kingdom may not come with the lore-lousy angst associated with its Soulsvania contemporaries, it does a dang fine job of distilling and executing what makes a Metroidvania great. It doesn't add a whole lot new, but it refines the genre's core mechanics to make an addicting and fun experience, all while presenting itself in the most charming package. If you haven't played Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, that's definitely something you should remedy sooner rather than later.